on YouTube, so you can come in and join me on YouTube as well. I'll be sharing the slides as well in YouTube. All right. So let's go back to my days as an immigrant who landed in Canada around October mark, and you see all those holiday vibe, and you feel like, okay, how am I going to get a job? Everyone seems to be off. Everyone seems to be out of office. No one probably would reply back to my emails. No one is probably even hiring, right? And this is what I did. So the first step was I started to put the plan together and see where do I see myself a fit. First of all, it starts with the SWOT, which is, can someone tell me in Audio Lives, what is SWOT? Have you done the SWOT? It's strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat, right? So if you don't know, the Job Search Foundation is, if you don't know who you are, then it's going to be very difficult for you to actually go out there and target the right industry, target the right role. And this is where I think I struggle, and lot of people, including a new people in a new country, and then including someone who's done the work for years and they've done so much altogether, they almost feel like I can do any job out there, right? So this is where you got to niche it down, meaning you got to be expert on one thing where you're targeting that one targeted role, one industry, and sometimes you can bring the industry as well. So I'll give you example. So when I started, I took on the apprentice program with the partnering with the agencies in Canada, and they were partnering with a top tech company for newcomers, and that was the IBM. I was working through that agency as an apprentice, and you know what, it was not paid. And I know some people would think that, why would I go and then do do the volunteering during that time, right? But then for me, it was different because I was in a new country. I wanted to understand the industry and culture, and I wanted to fit in and try to see if I'm the right fit. So my first role in Canada, a little bit later on, after I did have experience, I worked in the fast food industry, customer service, right, as an entry level person. Now, if you want to know anything about Canadian experience, No Canadian Experience, if you're in Canada, newcomers, definitely go and see my No Canadian Experience blog on it. It's featured on my profile as well. You can see what did I do, all about my story. So this is where I started. I'm going to go and then target the customer service role. Now, when I did the customer service role, a lot of people only started to think about the fast food industry and retail because I'd done that, the sales, retail, and customer service. I wanted to try contact center. Now, there's a difference between call center and contact center. I wanted to choose the contact center where it's not salesy, if it doesn't feel right sometimes, right? That was not me, but I wanted to make an impact. So I partner with the agency. Now, it didn't just come to me. I had to research. This is where the SWOT comes in. So finding out who you are, and then the opportunities, and what are the threats, right? The threats would be people are not going to give me any chances if I want to work with a contact center because I don't have any experience on it. So that's why I wanted to go and put the volunteering on my resume. So it worked beautifully. I love the environment. And then I started now targeting the banking industry, and that's what I did. So my resume was all about customer service, and then I started to target the banking industry. Now it was a holiday season. Now how the heck I'm going to get the job, right? This is what I did. I started to understand the banking system. When do they actually hire? What are their fiscal year? Now, every banking industry, I want you to think about this one role right now. And then I want you to think about, okay, what industry you want to be part of it? Are you the right fit? And is that what you want to do? So what you want to do now is now start doing that information sessions, whether you're talking to the people, whether you're going online to see how they are hiring, when do they hire. And this is where a lot of people think, I want to be there right now. But then sometimes get to the long-term goal, you got to start somewhere short-term, right? This is exactly what I did. So I took on a holiday season, I took on the seasonal role at one other bank. Seasonal role, they were only hiring for a couple of months, and it was during the season. It was a credit card. department where I was the authorization officer. And again, you know what happened? The opportunity opened up. You know that agency I partner with to work at IBM? They seen my track record. I killed a target. I was a top salesperson. I already built the reputations, and that agency liked me. And they said, "We have an opportunity for you. Do you want to take on the seasonal work? Because nobody's taking it." I said, "Hey, I'll take it." I put my hands up there. So people think I want full-time job. And even if you want the full-time job, we live in the area right now that it's never guaranteed. Today you're working, tomorrow you're going to be gone. You see a lot of layoffs happening right now, right? You see it, right? So don't be afraid to take on that short-term project at all. And this is how I started. I took on the seasonal opportunity for a couple of months, and then I left. And then that opened one more role for me, which is okay, now I'm going to go to banking industry. Where am I going to go? Am I going to like it? And then I was studying at the same time too. And right after, because I had that on my resume, IBM Contact Center and the top bank where I was working seasonally, then I got the opportunity from the same bank, yo guys, same bank that I worked, who did not hire me. It was a temp, right? I was seasonal because now I know their system. Remember this. A lot of people, what they do is they want to go right away. But if you know their system and if you've already worked with them, you've done the great job. There's always a network within, or you can always go back and talk about, I know you already. It's easier to actually go one step ahead of the game instead of restarting from the scratch. Now, you know that bank, and they actually came in, they said, we'd like to interview for a different role because you already have worked with us in a different sector. And I interviewed, and there was the other bank, they interviewed me as well. I went with a contact center. Now, I didn't want to work in the branch environment, so contact center was my baby. So this is how I start, and that was all in holiday season, 100%. And if I was sitting down and thinking, no one's going to hire me, people are going away on vacations, you know what, I would not have actually been hired at all in the banking industry. I knew who hires at what time, what's their fiscal year. And normally what happens is, just because you're in that industry, that doesn't mean that they hire throughout. They normally hire in batches, depend on the role as well. And when do they hire too? That matters too. So this is where you need to figure it out. There's no point of waiting for a year if they're not even hiring, right? So you don't want to shoot your shot just by that. So you want to know your industry left and right, and that falls into SWOT. I teach that in my class. So what happens later on is, this is what you need to know. So I'm showing this on a YouTube. What do you need to know? The framework to start when it comes to the job search foundation is know the major role, okay? What are your core responsibilities? You need to understand that. And then day-to-day role as well underneath it, right? So there is going to be 80% of the tasks that, you're probably going to repeat it every time. That could be major. And there could be day-to-day role as well. So you might have to pick and choose, or you would be dumped the work, or you would be passed on, or you would be working with the different stakeholders. Understand that. And sometimes what happens is, when you're looking, for example, if I'm looking for the role in contact center in banking sector, a lot of people, what they do is like, I want to work for a bank. That doesn't do a damn thing to me, right? If you're talking to the people, you want to talk like this. You want to say, I want to work for the banking industry, and I wanted to work in the contact center environment, and I want to work in the mortgage department, right? And doing this, I want to underwrite the file, right? So you can't just say, I want to work in a mortgage department, right? Mortgage department is a big umbrella. What do you want to do? Do you want to take just applications? Do you want to just do the underwriting only? Do you want to do the funding only, where you just, check everything is okay, or do you want to actually just take the application and talk to the client? Are you client based or are you operation based, right? So I want you to think about that. A lot of my clients, when they land in Canada, especially I work with a lot of immigrants, what they tend to do is, okay, I want to work in mortgage. Now, what's happening with the mortgage industry right now? Lendings rates are going up and up. right? Even in states as well, worldwide, recession's hitting in. So now the mortgage industry is really slowing down and they're thinking, oh my God, you know what? I'm never going to work in mortgage. That's not true. My clients have gotten multiple offers in this industry. So this is where you got to be able to transfer and pivot it without pivoting 100%. So if you know the mortgage, right, industry, you know ins and out in Canada. So how about not taking the applications, which is the acquisitions, because the house are not being sold, there's no lending, people are getting laid off. How about going into the backend system, right? Where you know what you need to do and then targeting that role, right? The roles out there. So you got to be very specific, and that falls on the job search foundation. So if you don't know what you want, it's going to be very hard to find and research and talk to people. First thing first, they're going to ask you, can I see the resume? Do not ever send the resume to anybody. I want you to make a promise to me today. Do not send any resume without seeing the job descriptions and understanding the environment. So let's say, as a hiring manager, right? If I want your resume, I want the resume for myself. Honestly, if I like you, then I'll probably put it on the file. Later on, I'm going to tell my HR people to contact you. But what are the chances that I'm going to put that resume in my file and then send it to somebody else, my buddy who's hiring in different department? It's not going to happen. We're all busy. It's a human nature, right? So now, always go through the information sessions. And if they go, you know what, can you send me the resume? And you can say, well, I would love to, but what are the roles you're thinking of? Who do you have a contact with? Can I get a name, right? So this is how you build a network and then start understanding the environment. And then want to know, make sure that who you are, what industry, you need to be clear, what title. Now here's the catch. If you're saying one title, there might be other title, it would be under the same umbrella. That has happened to me. So one of the clients, a lot of time what happens is when the clients are landing, immigrants, especially landing from outside world, what happens is they're just focusing on one title. So let's say, I'm giving you an example, compliance and AML. I work with a lot of clients like that. So back home, what happens is they have compliance and AML in the same umbrella in certain countries, and they've done the compliance and AML and fraud as well at the same time. That's too much. That's too much. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to be expert on one thing. So now I want you to reevaluate. The major role was what? When you look at the slide on YouTube right now, I'm teaching you what was the major role and what's the major role that you want to be targeting, right? Compliance, but some part of it would be the AML, but then AML too. There's a business AML. How do you onboard people and stuff, and compliance too. There's a personal one as well. There's a lending as well, right? So who are you? So if you've opened this so much umbrella, you're not an expert in anything, right? So if you want to be compliance, what exactly is the major role? And what do the day-to-day role look like? I want you to hone it down and bring the niche down, meaning you are expert on compliance. You cannot be expert on compliance and AML and fraud three together. Mark my word down. That's not how it's going to work. And this is where people think that, you know what, compliance is going to hire in holiday season, fraud's not going to hire in holiday season, right? So this is where you need to know who is hiring. Fraud is going to potentially hire in banking industry during season, but guess what? People are spending money. There are a lot of frauds happening. Most likely people are not opening the account in during the season, right? Compliance, that falls under compliance, where people are actually going and opening the account, a lot of account. And this is where it falls in AML, which is anti-money laundering. They have to check in everything, right? So if you bring expertise in fraud, you can pivot it, right? And then now look at the role at the fraud environment. And again, it has to be niching it down. Business fraud, personal loan, whatever it is, right? So this is where a lot of people just think about, oh my God, they're not hiring in compliance, but hey, let's work through it and see who are hiring under compliance. You don't have to go and target the role in compliance. Let's see the major role they're going to be hiring. They're going to be looking for people like you. So I'm talking about the banking industry as a whole because I come from the bank and I've hired many people in banking industry. And I'll tell you what, I was a hiring manager. I went up Every time when I got promoted, I got 9 promotions within 12 years, and it was always around the end of the year because the fiscal year was around that time and the budget was there, and managers would be posting and I'd be applying for the role, and I got it, obviously, right? It's internal promotion. That happens with the internal promotion as well. And I'm going to touch base on that later on. How do you get internally promoted during the holiday season too? So now let's go about the new role. So when you are thinking about no one's hiring, their budget right now for the management, and a lot of company, what happens is if you have vacancy for more than 6 months or 1 year, doesn't matter. The senior leadership team, executive team is gonna doubt it and say, well, you had 1 year of vacancy, team was running the way it is, I don't think you need one, so go ahead and like don't hire anybody. There's no headcount and budget next year for you. This is why the managers are afraid, and they're like, I want to get in this book this year before I lose the headcount and budget for next year. This is the loophole that you're going to have to use it. How long is the role vacant for? When are they trying to actually get you in there? End of the year? And or some people, what they do is now they're ready for the next year as well. So this is why it's really important for you to understand the budgeting. When do they hire and where they are going to be posting? And the temp is the way to go. And a lot of people are thinking, I'm not going to work with a temp agency. I did temp agencies, okay, to get to where I am today. So if I didn't trust the temp agency, you know what? I wanted to climb up the ladder, but it's okay to take that role in seasonal role, and you might not like it, you never know, right? So you can back out. That's how I climbed up the ladder as well, by partnering with the temp agency. I want you to go now and research who are the temp agencies who are partnering with this banking sector or your industry. A lot of people in temp agency, they don't tend to hire because a lot of costs. That's why they outsource these roles for on-demand type of role, especially in banking sector. So I'll tell you the other example in banking sector. RSP season in Canada is kicking in, where people are supposed to bring the money and put it in there. And then, you know what, they have until March to put the RSP, which is a retirement savings plan funding, where let's say if you put like, $1,000 or $5,000, whatever, depending on how much you have, you can put it in there, and it's extremely busy in banking sector around this time. So they're on demand. And you know what the on demand people don't think about it? I'll give you one example. They're thinking, oh my God, I want to work for a bank, but they're not thinking about the operation. Let's dissect this a bit. If you want to work for the bank, you know what? There's a mail room too. Remember that. A lot of people, they go in a mail room, okay? Where let's say people are actually opening an account, the RSP, which could fall on the compliance as well. Mutual fund RSP, like, no mutual fund RSP, non-registered. Like there's so many accounts. You got to look for it. If you're working in the bank, you should already know, if you know your industry, you should already know when do they hire, when it's going to be busy season. If you don't know when is it going to be busy season for your industry and for your type of role, you are not clear on what you want. Mark my word. Okay. So this is the research you're going to have to do it. So for RSP, let's say you can work in the mail room, guys, right? For a couple of months. Now you know their system's going to be same. Guess what's going to happen? You're building the networking relationship, and then you're going to climb up later on. When the internal posting comes up, you get the first hit. You get to actually go and apply for it. And a lot of people think that I just want to work full time right from the day start. But how about you change the strategy, go in there with the open mindset, and when the posting comes up, you apply, because now you've already built the reputations. And this is what I did as well. So I moved up the ladder. I got 9 promotions within 12 years by internally moving, and I became a hiring manager. I was a hiring manager in this top company, in the top bank, for more than 10 years. And I've hired people in the holiday season in batches. We used to have a career fair, after hours career fair. We used to have career fair on weekends as well. And this is happening. And I'm speaking from the banking perspective, but if you want to work for your industry, you need to know when do they do the career fair. Now, if you're a newcomer in Canada or you're landing soon, I have a link for you for job fair where you can go and hit me up. Send me a DM if you want the link. There are job fairs happening throughout different province. And then also I have, let's say, like, everything is built up and it's all compiled for you. So send me DM and I'll send you that as well. It's on my website. You can go find it. That'd be perfect. There's the job posting site, including the outsourcing company as well for banking sector, contact center. There's so many things you can go find out right now. It's under my blog, teachanddo.com, blog sections, and it would say 50 plus job sites. And that actually has the job sites, the career fairs coming up. You got to go out there and now start researching it, right? So applying online, that works beautifully when you know what you want, when you know you're clear on your resume as well, right? And then now searching the information is the other part that people need to be clear on when it comes to getting hired in the holiday season. Now, the second step, what you want to do is information session is not about I want job. It's to understand when are they going to hire, where do they normally post. People don't post on LinkedIn all the time. People don't post on Indeed all the time. People don't post on so they would normally have one tool they would fall on. So one of the industry I was in, I was researching, and they always posted on Friday evening on one specific channel. I knew it. How did I know it? Because I researched, right? I signed up for their career newsletter and stuff like that. So I knew. So targeting the right employer, develop the 50 employer first, and then start thinking, when do they hire, and go out there and research. Now, short-term and long-term goal, right? So get in there. The other thing is talk to people inside. That's the only way you are going to know if you can't find the information. People are not going to go, the companies are not going to go and show you and tell you we're going to hire around this time only, right? This is for you to find the informations, right? There are a couple of type of hiring demand. On demand, which is normally the seasonal demand, and that usually happens in retail industry, banking industry, and the other industry, let's say construction, especially in Canada. If you want to go into the constructions, like the summers are the way to go, right? So you need to understand already when do they hire, and this is your time. No matter what you do, if you're not actually getting hired and getting calls during that time, you're done. You're actually going to be unemployed for a couple of months. So you need to start way in advance, because you're actually now fighting the battle with the layoff people who are going to be called back, recent grad, and then people who just, who got laid off and they want to pivot, whatever it is, right? So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. Upgrading, a lot of people, what they do is they go, just because you work with one company, that doesn't mean that the other company does not require certain skills, right? Different companies have a different feature, different software, different tools. So I want you to research on it. Do they require certification? Do they want you to upgrade? So there are a lot of free courses I've included on my job search blog as well, on that 50 job website, where you can take a lot of courses for upgrading certification, especially even PMP as well. There are free courses too. You can take it if you are going through the project management as well. If you don't know, if you can't find that, I'm going to probably show it as well. Maybe share the screen on YouTube as well. So for people who are watching me on YouTube, you can just, go ahead and see it as well. So you don't have to DM me. All right. So let me just see here. What else? I'm sharing the screen on YouTube. If you want to go and watch it, replay it later on, that's fine. So when I'm talking about, let me just hide this. Okay. When I'm talking about internal promotions, this is how I got it, was by understanding the role requirements, sitting down and talking to the people who are already on the role, shadowing, jacking, listening to their calls. Would I be part of it? Do I fit in here? Do I like it, right? I always test it for internal promotion before saying yes to it. And I want you to probably start doing that as well for the role, especially in holiday season. People have good spirit right now. People are giving gift back and forth. They are right now jolly. So you want to take full advantage of it. And then bring it up, obviously, for internal promotion as well, with the manager, and say, hey, if there's a new project coming on, I don't mind taking short-term project, if I like it or not. And then what's going to happen is later on is your manager is going to think about it, right? Managers cannot read your mind, guys. You have to bring it up for internal promotions. And that happens every day, one-to-one coaching. Now, I'm going to open the floor for a question as well. If anyone wants to come in, raise your hand. There's the raising your hand button there. You can come in and ask me questions. First step to recap is know yourself, do the SWOT on yourself. strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. And then what's going to happen is you're going to go research, develop the list of companies. The second step, maybe 50 targeted company, be very clear on industry and targeted role, and see, let's say, for example, I was a sales coach, okay? And then my title could have been sales coach, sales leader, sales manager in banking sector. Now, sales manager, I was managing a couple of teams, deposit team who are dealing with the investment, and then the lending team who are just taking the mortgage applications and forwarding to the underwriter, right? So now people think, okay, well, sales manager jobs are not there. Guess what? I could have targeted, if I wanted to move out, I could have moved out to the deposit manager. There's like bunch of targeted lingo that people use. You know what I've seen for my title before was everyday banking manager, deposit manager, the mortgage manager, more like, stuff. So you got to research. You're not lying by changing the title. It's the same industry, same role. You got to put that on a resume as well. I teach all of that in my resume program. Now, TIY course is on. I have early access where you get to learn resume writing, which is teach and do it yourself. And it's affordable investment. If you want to know more about it, I'm just offering to the limited client only because I'm testing it out. Send me DM on my LinkedIn, or let's talk on my calendar, appointment calendar. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I go live on every Friday at 11 a.m. and then you can come in and watch replay. I might not do the replay all the time for audio, but I felt like because it's a season today and a lot of people are thinking no one's hiring, but hey, people are hiring. You just need to know the informations and get to that industry, get ahead of other people when people are just relaxed and sleeping. Any questions you have on YouTube, I'm going to just wrap it up on YouTube, audio live audience, stay with me. And there are free resources you can actually go and then download as of right now as well. You can go ahead. And then I'm on a TikTok as well, guys, if you want to know more about job search, career advice, anything like that. On a YouTube, I'm going to end the broadcast, but audio